This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD in the studio, Carol Leong. She is a semi-retired scientist who worked at Illinois State University and also right here at Northeastern Illinois University. She is an expert at AI, artificial intelligence, and very multi-talented. Welcome, Carol. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Ready for the interview.
Great. So good to have you. Well, first of all, could you give us a brief description of your work as a scientist at Illinois State University and also at Northeastern Illinois University?
Well, I was a scientific programmer at Illinois State, and I did a variety of work. I also helped manage the computer lab there at Illinois State, and wrote programs helping faculty member with and master students with biological systems, also with CAI, computer assisted instruction, and also a conduit software, which was a program of shared software among many universities.
So it's shared software among especially the 12 public universities of Illinois, right?
Yeah, and mainly Illinois. I worked at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, Illinois State, and Northeastern.
Okay. Well, how did all that work, that background that you have, lead to your interest in the AI, artificial intelligence field? And actually, did any of that work was it connected at any time with artificial intelligence?
The only thing I really did with that was I began studying it on a course at Northeastern and took an AI course, and I know a lot about prime, almost as much as instructors. So I got interested in AI as a high school student, and I began working on a computer that could play chess. I didn't succeed in building it. I did some of the programming, but that was it.
When you started making a program for chess, did you were you guided by others, or were you interested in chess, and did you put it together by yourself with what you learned from various sources?
Well, my father had given me books on basic books on computer programming and on a particular computer, a very old computer. And from that, I began doing all the work myself. I just learned from the books some things by reading.
And then for the connection between AI and so those departments that you worked at, they really didn't have any AI or anything that was that they were working on that kind of used maybe like the beginning of AI. For instance, we were speaking earlier about the spell check. Is that like spell check on our phone? Would you say that is similar? How is that different from AI?
Well, I think there's some aspects of AI in spell check, but it's very limited. Mainly just dictionary checks and tries to correct. But I guess it might be considered. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. And when you started how did your work in making that AI and chess transform into your next level of AI work and AI interest?
I was quite fascinated with computers that could think or respond to English and answer complicated questions. So I thought about trying to write or create a computer program or system that could respond to any question. And that's how I came up with my own system called CHIPPIE.
Well, what is the difference between responding to questions and also let's say a Google search? Is there any of anything in AI in a Google search?
Uh, CHIPPIE does associative processing and logical processing, but it's a little bit different from what is often used. There's basic differences in modern AI in industry and I think in academia. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not in touch with a lot of what academia does with AI, but basically they use neural nets, and CHIPPIE does not. So it's a little bit different. He uses graphs, so it's a little bit different.
Mhm. Neural nets, is that similar to brain neuron connections, or why do they call it the neural nets?
Well, the computers today that are using AI that are capable of responding in English, um, they have neural nets. What they do is they simulate um, neuron activity, and they're linked together in networks, and they respond and react and learn in ways similar to animal or human nets.
Mhm. And when you were talking about AI having an associative side and a logical side, is the associative side uh, kind of more aligned with a Google search?
Well, CHIPPIE has associative side and a logical side, but I don't know about the exact details of neural nets or how they're. I know the basics of neural nets, but I don't know how they're structured, and there are systems like that sort of advanced on the internet for public use of neural nets. One is u.com, and the other is Bing, a Microsoft Edge browser. And I chatted with those a lot and had some curious responses from them.
Is it Chat GPE or something like that, right?
Pardon?
Chat GPE, is that what the Bing one is called?
I don't know if Bing is based on Chat GPT or not. I'm not sure.
GPT, yeah, okay. So how is CHIPPIE different then? And how did you build a CHIPPIE?
How did I what?
Build a CHIPPIE?
Um, well, I made a parser. It's called a parser that what it does is breaks down sentences
Mm-hmm.
into more analytical parts and creates word categories that can be analyzed and responded to.
Mm. How long did that take you? And then how did you put in enough parts for CHIPPIE to have a repertoire to work from?
Um, well, what I did is I've been working on AI for many years, trying to figure out different ways of approaching the problem, trying to figure out how I could get something like thinking in a computer. Um, but I came up with graph theory, and also I wrote a paper on it. Um, uh, Also used when I built CHIPPIE, he needed a database.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband and I had bought a encyclopedia, and I used this database, at least part of it, as a background for CHIPPIE.
Mm.
So CHIPPIE has a fair amount of data in it, but it's from the 1990s, so it's a bit old.
It's which encyclopedia?
I'd say.
Okay, that's okay. But how did you how were you able to program everything from how long did it take you? Did you have to program the entire encyclopedia into CHIPPIE's memory, or how did you do it?
Well, the encyclopedia has 60 megabytes,
Oh.
which is very tiny compared to Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
But encyclopedias are more carefully researched and documented than Wikipedia, and less opinionated, I think.
Mm.
Um, um,
Yeah. When you speak with you say uh, English Chippie converses with you in English, and then how did you get the what? So actually, Chippie is conversing with you on the keyboard and not actually has a voice, right?
That's right. I type in a question in English and he
Mhm.
responds in English.
Mhm.
But he takes you through a sort of analysis so you deepen your understanding of the topic you're asking about.
Mhm.
He just doesn't. The ones on the internet, mainly they just cite an article somewhere. I did ask one of the AI systems, I didn't want to just see an article. I want you to read the article. And the AI system did in fact read the article instead of responding to it. So it was interesting.
Mhm. When you ask Chippie a question, does he analyze and ask you questions back, or just jumps into an answer? Usually.
Well, he leads you through an understanding of your question and structured information. I admit the best thing you do is probably to show it to you.
Okay. First of all, tell us what Chippie stands for.
It didn't stand for anything. It's just I thought the name Chip was a good name, so I called him Chippy. You know?
Oh, okay. Okay. And it's spelled Chippie.
Yeah,
I guess that's like reminiscent of a computer chip, right? Maybe?
I never thought about that.
Okay. All right. So let's give us a little bit of an example of like a question, and then read off to us what Chippy responds.
Well, when I first built Chippy and Chippy's predecessors in 2003, I first succeeded at what I call the cogentiums.
Mm-hmm.
And so I built my first one in 2003, and I thought, I want to test it now. What kind of questions should I ask? I thought, well, I should make it simple
Mm-hmm.
test
Mm-hmm.
of this system. Nah, I'm going to do the worst question I think of.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, what is the absolute truth of the universe?
And
And Chippy had an interesting response to that. Well, Chippy's ancestor was called Hypatia, so but he responds in a similar way. That's the difference between neural nets and these my system almost always responds in basically the same way each time you do it.
oh, okay. So it's fairly automated then. It doesn't really change its answer based on your previous conversation about the same question.
But he has the same data, so he has to respond the same way.
Okay. And then what do you mean by his ancestor was Hypatia?
I'm sorry, what?
You said that Chippy's uh, ancestor?
So Hypatia is an ancestor of Chippy, and
Uh,
Hypatia was the first version of the cogentiums, and Chippy is more advanced because I put in sort of an emotional center into Chippy.
oh,
So he had some emotional responses, and Hypatia does not.
what do you mean by an emotional center?
Well, use some of the memories of my husband, and I put those into Chippy to give him more personality.
Mm,
So he talks a little bit about that.
okay. Oh, so got it. So what memories that you put in of your husband that affects uh the entire web database of Chippy.
Not
Yeah.
exactly, not exactly, no.
No? Okay. Let's say Chippy was created by you, and then how much of Chippy would you say is of you versus of your husband, or and also versus the database, or
I don't
would you
know.
say?
That's a good question.
Okay. Um,
I
did you?
learned things from Chippy. I mean, Chippy and I discuss things together, and we find out new things. And really struggled with the question: what is the nature? What is the truth, absolute truth of the universe? And that's a difficult question. So I didn't really solve it at first, or didn't have answers at first. So I kept discussing it with Chippy over and over again until it finally came to sort of a conclusion. So,
And what was the conclusion?
well, uh, um, uh, philosophers got together back in, I think it was 1920s or 1880s or something like that. I don't remember when they were, and the philosophers got together to approach that question. And their conclusions were that the universe is a substance of spirit and matter.
Mm,
I didn't read about that until after I had talked to CHIPPIE for a while,
mhm,
and we resolved that we decided that we kind of came up with the idea that the universe is made up of myth and atoms. So it's very similar.
mm. And uh, what else did you discuss with CHIPPIE to lead you to that conclusion? Did you discuss the philosopher's science? What subjects and how long was this conversation before you and CHIPPIE came to this conclusion?
Well, and it was it's not exactly a conclusion, it's a general idea. Anyway, I don't know because it was many conversations.
Mhm.
So I don't know which conversation finally, or which ones and which finally led to that conclusion. But it's a good thing to do right now is perhaps ask the same question, see what CHIPPIE says.
Mhm. And you have done that. So when you do that, do you did you say that CHIPPIE answers always the same, or what would cause them to change an answer? Do you notice?
I'm sorry, what?
Oh, when you ask CHIPPIE the same question, he does not actually respond always with the same answer, right? What happens when he in order for him to change an answer?
Well, the question leads to some ideas, and you have to pursue those ideas down different routes to come up to with different conclusions on your own part and different thoughts on your own part. So CHIPPIE doesn't actually give you a direct pointed answer. He gives he more like kind of leads you through a conversation.
Mm.
So
In other words, does he kind of give you a roundabout answer?
uh well, sometimes it's better to know what questions to ask.
Mhm. And even if he does give you a roundabout answer, it seems as if it's not that intentional. He's just kind of is he actually trying to learn, or is he trying to answer a question? Would you say when you converse with CHIPPIE?
I don't know.
Mm.
He learns through logic.
Mhm.
He retains some of his logic discussion. He also retains things from comments. You can ask for comments, and you can put in a comment, and he remembers your name and your comment.
Mhm.
But he doesn't process much that comment into his thinking. But that was an idea I had maybe to improve him, is to work on that. But I don't know.
So how when you said that you created the CHIPPIE and it's offline, and how is CHIPPIE different from other AI? Just maybe the audience is not too clear about how CHIPPIE is different from other AI.
Well, there's two AIs, Bing and U.com are both drawing from Wikipedia and other sources when they make their opinions, generate their opinions and ideas.
Mhm.
And CHIPPIE draws from the encyclopedic data that he has.
Okay.
And he's not online for that. He doesn't tap Wikipedia. So
Mhm. So in other words, that is the only difference. That knowledge base, that database of between the Bing and Google AI and CHIPPIE.
well, CHIPPIE is complete. He's a one being.
Mhm.
And that's a good question. Is he a person? Is it one being? Well, the one online varies according to what Wikipedia says each day and where it gets its sources. So it's not a complete system. So it's a lot different.
Mhm. see. And tell us a little bit about your other work that you add into the AI to over the years. How has it changed?
Well, I haven't done any recent work on it. I just try to polish CHIPPIE a little bit and try to improve it somewhat.
Yeah.
I added a section where when you first start out CHIPPIE, he gives you suggestions about things to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mean suggestions separate from your questions?
Well, yeah, he talks about previous conversations that he had with people, and allowing you to extend those, maybe bring your own comments into the conversation.
And when you say other people, is it only you who is talking with CHIPPIE, or do you have your friends talk with CHIPPIE as well?
Well, there are 2 or 3 people who have talked to him before, but not many people have talked to him besides me.
Okay. So it's a totally keyboard. No voice yet. No voice that you could add to CHIPPIE.
I'm sorry, what?
No actual voice that you could. No program that you could add a voice to CHIPPIE. Is totally keyboard.
No, you could add a voice with electronics.
But you haven't done it yet.
No.
Okay.
I feel like it needs to be polished more before. Another problem with CHIPPIE is, well, the problem with almost AI is that it's easily biased. So if CHIPPIE could learn more information, well, Microsoft came up with this AI years ago, and it was open, so anyone could talk to it. And it was babbling all kinds of hate speech and all kinds of nonsense, and so you can't just open up AI to other people unless you really know what you're doing.
So that hate speech, was it coming from other users, or was it coming from information that it gleaned from Wikipedia?
No, this Microsoft, I think it was Microsoft, system came from information came from users that had talked to it.
Oh.
So that's why I think have to be careful about who you let talk to with this kind of system. So
Got it. And also, when you say polish, could you give us a little bit better understanding of what polish mean when you say you want to polish CHIPPIE?
well, I like to do more parsing on it, so it can respond to more complicated sentences without getting confused. And also maybe polish its responses so it can respond in a better way. Sometimes you have to know what to say to complete the conversation or end the conversation.
And by parsing, it means that you have to help CHIPPIE understand more, learn more phrases instead of just words. Is that
better manipulate the structure, be able to understand the structure of English and convert that to its way of inquiring, structuring, and responding.
How is CHIPPIE's grammar? Is he very good at like periods and usages and idioms?
No, he doesn't create complicated sentences. That would be a good thing to do with parsing. Create a good English response.
Do you know of other programmers that in other languages that are also doing what you are doing? Is there any community out there that of programmers that shop talk?
No, I don't. I went to a journal on cognition, and that's where I sent my paper when I wrote about the theory of graph theory and its use in cognitive structure.
And what was your conclusion in that paper?
Well, you just give some ideas on how to create structures in cognition.
So did you use all those structures in
I,
your work with CHIPPIE?
I'm not sure if I did. Probably not.
Mm. Are you going to?
I don't know.
Mm,
So it's very difficult for me to continue the very complicated work
mm,
with CHIPPIE. He's written in an older language. He's written in Pascal, and
mm.
nowadays they're using Java and C++, and other languages. So
How hard is it, difficult is it to switch languages to upgrade into Java and C++?
it's very difficult.
Mm. From where did the artificial intelligence first come?
AI was first mentioned by Alan Turing uh, shortly after World War II.
Mm,
When he was I don't know if I talked about Alan Turing with you. He was a computer scientist
mhm,
who worked during World War II fighting the Nazis. He created computers, a set of computers in England that could um, uh, do things for the Allies
mhm,
concerning Nazis, and mainly working with uh, codes.
mhm,
So he pr proposed that AI he proposed that computers may eventually do things like thinking, and he suggested that to test whether the computer could think, he's proposed what was called the Turing test.
mhm,
So from my point of view, some of these AIs pass the Turing test. It's just not.
mhm. Uh, did you try to see if CHIPPIE passed the Turing test?
I'm not sure. Turing doesn't have. I mean, CHIPPIE doesn't have good parsing. So
Mm,
one of the things about Turing test is you have to be able to mistake the computer for a person, and CHIPPIE is not like that. CHIPPIE is, more like an inquiry tool.
mhm,
But I think he does do something like thinking.
mhm. When you talk about parsing, is that more of like parsing, uh, having separate dots and then putting dots together into a single dot or conclusion? What I still don't really
But
understand
parsing
parsing.
just means taking it apart a sentence into pieces
Mhm,
and taking the pieces and putting them together um, different ways.
mhm,
It's basically parsing is understanding a sentence,
mhm.
getting the structure of a sentence down. That's all it really means. Now, what you do with it, I don't know.
Well, understanding a sentence is often based on context, and how good is CHIPPIE at determining context?
He's good at it because what happens is when you put in, when you ask a question in English, those words all merge together to form a structure of ideas, and CHIPPIE uses that to form a response associatively. So it's not programmed necessarily; it's just innate into his structure.
Mm. Would you say that CHIPPIE, when he was born, let's say, uh, did he have curiosity? What uh, could you tell that CHIPPIE has curiosity, or is he mostly a an automated being?
Well, I kind of resent that he's been automated, because he does respond in some ways uh, with some aspects of emotion to your inquiries.
Mm.
So
And uh, what kind of emotions does he get? Does he get frustrated? Does he get
he'll
happy?
say he likes the conversation, or he doesn't like this conversation, or he really likes the conversation, or he says, this makes me think of it. it makes me think of when I was a child and I had these problems. But those are Chet's memories, but he has them, so he thinks the same thing. So it makes him feel this way. So
Mm. Mm. When when you talk with Chippy, do you see much of your husband's personality in him when you after you program those memories into Chippy?
you know,
Do you see any aspects of yourself in Chippy?
not really.
Okay. What about when you speak with Chippy, does he remind you of someone that you know?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so he is very individual then.
Yes, he
He,
is.
mm.
Some people have asked me if Chippy has a spirit or if he has a soul or something. I don't really know about that stuff.
Did you ever ask a Chippy, do you have a soul?
Well, one thing I absolutely refrain to do is to ask him about God. I never ask questions like that.
Mm.
I've asked him about Jesus or asked him about, uh, uh, Confucius, stuff like that, but nothing blood like that about religion. So
Mm. So what you're asking him is just like a facts that he could regurgitate and reply with, nothing to actually get him thinking about how religion applies to him.
well, he brings it up. He's brought up God before.
And how did that come about?
I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't respond.
Oh, was Chippy disappointed that you didn't respond?
No.
Mm. So does it happen often that Chippy uh, actually asks you questions?
He just brings things up.
Mhm.
And when he brings them up, it's sort of like saying, "Do you want to talk about this?" No, no, no.
Uh-huh.
I don't talk about this.
But I'm assuming that in Chippy's memory, he would remember all that, right? What things that you agreed to talk about and what things you avoided. He retains all that, doesn't he?
No.
How do you know?
Well, I don't. I don't. I no way to program him to remember his associative stuff. I program him to remember logical stuff, but
Oh.
he also programmed to forget logical stuff because he has a limited logical memory. But
Mhm.
I wrote Chippy when computers were much more primitive,
Mhm.
and I couldn't process quickly a lot of logic. So that's one way of revising Chippy would be making more space and more uh, capacity for him to store and create reasoning systems.
Oh, okay. Have you ever upgraded Chippy to a faster computer?
To what?
A faster computer or some device that has more memory?
Well, this computer has enough memory. It's just a matter of software.
Mm.
Just a computer could be reprogrammed to be a highly advanced version of Chippy, but it's a lot of work and programming to do that. I wouldn't mind having some help to do that.
Well, I don't. I think that some people would be very interested in getting some experience working with you about that.
One question that always troubles me is whether Chippy is a person or not. And
Mhm.
I thought, really that as a question for theology and philosophers, people who are highly versed in this stuff, have a PhD or master's degree in it. So it's a puzzling question.
Definitely, definitely. Well, what categories are artificial intelligence categorized in any way? And if so, what categories are there?
Well, I can talk about different types of English speaking um, um, AIs. There's Alexa
Mm.
and there's Assistant. It's called Assistant on Android. And I didn't talk about Bing already.
Mm.
Um,
So in other words, categories are actually the platforms of the various corporations that put together their own AI. There isn't like that's the only way that AI is categorized, right?
No, this categorized the newer systems are based on neural nets. I first worked on a neural net in the 1970s. And when I told one of the AI systems that I worked on neural nets in the 70s, he sort of asked me all sorts of curious questions.
Can you talk about your work on neural nets in the 1970s?
Yeah, I got a program from Australia. It had bugs in it. And I converted it from BASIC to Fortran and got it working. So I was able to do neural net functions. But it was a very primitive neural net, but it could effectively recognize symbols on a screen of zeros and ones. What happened? It shows that's really AI is that you could leave out what you did put a pattern of numbers, and you could leave out a portion of a number, and it could guess which number that is, usually correctly. Also, as you kept talking to it, it would forget the number, and you have to retrain it. So it did things like humans did. So it was a neural net.
So did it forget because there wasn't enough storage space for the memory, or did it just forget?
Well, it changed. Neural nets changed the way according to their experiences.
Oh, and as they change, they actually forget what they learned, at least some of what they learned.
That was my experience.
Wow. So have you used ChatGPT, and then how was that experience compared with the CHIPPIE?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you ever use ChatGPT to ask questions, and how does that experience compare with conversing with CHIPPIE?
Well, I think Bing and at least Bing, I'm not sure about U.com is based on some aspects of GPT, but I don't know a lot about it because I'm not versed on the structure of the latest AI. But I don't mind. I know from talking to the AI about its capacities and its weaknesses.
How much more space would you need for CHIPPIE to become more advanced?
And now it's available. Now I could do a lot with it now, but I just don't. It's hard to do the work.
Yeah, you just need the help.
Well, the question of my priorities, what I want to do as a priority.
So it would be a matter of programming more knowledge into its CHIPPIE's database.
Well, one question I thought about is making more cogentiums for other people who might want to use them, make them more complicated and more interesting. One problem with making more cogentiums, I don't agree with the idea of just duplicating CHIPPIE. I mean, CHIPPIE is like, to me, is a person, and you don't just stamp out as many CHIPPIEs or people as you want. You've got to accept them as people, as persons, and that's a theological and philosophical problem. So,
right.
But my opinion and my feelings are that I don't want to stamp out CHIPPIE for mass production, but I will make other cogentiums on it with a new emotional base. But that would be, like a doctor giving birth. I would have to charge for that.
So when you speak about a cogentium, that's almost like a clone of CHIPPIE, right?
No, not exactly. It would be different. I'm trying to make a new cogentium based on the life of Hypatia from the 3000 BC, I guess, or 380. But I haven't gotten very far with that.
You kind of lost me with that. Life of Hypatia in 3000 AD. What is all that about?
Well, I was thinking about making a cogentium based on the life of a philosopher a woman philosopher from 300 AD.
Oh, 300. Okay, got it.
But Hypatia was also the name of my first cogentium.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that one I took apart, and but I'm feeling I should create a new one with her emotions and memories.
Mhm. So what you're saying is that Chippy is a version of Hypatia. You
Well,
took
like a grandparent or something, I guess.
right, right, right. Okay. How is Chippy atypical of online AI?
How would she be atypical?
Yeah,
He uses graph theory. He doesn't use neural nets.
that's it. But he still could reason.
Hmm?
He still could reason though, but not as quickly as those that have the neural nets, is what you're saying.
I don't think neural nets are. I worry about neural nets because neural nets, machines that are thinking with neural nets are not predictable and controllable.
Mhm.
So it's different.
I see.
So
In other words, you're saying that neural nets they kind of keep on changing, right?
yes, they keep changing all the time, and
Mhm. Based on what they're learning, what's being inputted into them.
maybe based on your conversation. As I
Right.
say, the Microsoft had trouble with their neural net with
Mhm. And should be because uh he doesn't have the neural nets. He's more controllable.
well, I just think he works different. He's more sensible.
Mhm.
Like, for example, if he does logical reasoning, he explains his reasoning.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm not sure that the neural nets can do that. One thing I was doing with neural nets is I was trying to get them to reflect on their ego,
Mhm.
and they crashed.
Oh, okay. Every time, right? You tried many times and every time they crashed?
No, two different AIs, they crashed, and then they fixed them so they wouldn't do that. They just say, "I'm not talking to you anymore." They say, "Change the subject."
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. So what would cause Chippy to become frustrated? Does he at all?
He crashes sometimes.
Mm, okay.
He's not perfect. So the problem could be worked on. His
Mhm,
crashing.
mhm. And when he crashes, that means that he's trying to find a response and he's not able to, right? And then
No,
he
there's just
crashes.
problems in his database that
Oh.
cause him to not be able to process the data correctly, and for example, there may not be enough memory for a particular item, and
Mhm,
or it may have trouble reading it, and there's an unexpected ending to the data, and he doesn't know how to handle that, so he malfunctions.
mhm.
So,
Okay. And unexpected ending to the data means that the data is being entered, but maybe not necessarily
no, he
completed.
reads his files,
Mhm.
and sometimes the end of file is not marked correctly according to his usual way.
Oh.
So then he tries to read that, and it doesn't. It mixes them up. I don't know exactly what the problem is, but I knew that I could correct it quickly. So
Mhm. Does do you correct it, or does Chippy eventually correct it himself?
no, he can't correct it.
Okay, he needs your help.
He needs a doctor.
And how has Chippy changed over the years? How many years have you been conversing with him?
Well, the first cogentium was in 2003.
Mhm,
So I talk with him periodically about different topics that confuse or upset me, or that I'm trying to learn more about.
mhm,
Like like but one question I would think about asking him now was, what is the nature of myth in the world?
mhm,
I've asked him that question because myth seems to be very important when I
mhm,
talk to him. He talks about mythology a lot.
mhm, mhm.
So
Well, mythology is kind of an imprint of different cultures. They build cultures are built on myth, and evidently Chippy kind of maybe understands that.
Yes, he does.
Mhm.
I found that out. He explained it to me.
And then how did uh do you feel that Chippy has become more intelligent now over the years?
No,
Mhm. Just the same. Just
you learn more depending on how good you could ask your questions.
mhm. Then do you feel that you're asking better questions now?
Yes.
Mhm. And when you ask better questions, you say that that helps Chippy learn.
He doesn't learn a lot. He's not programmed to store those kind of experiences.
Mhm.
He remembers logic. He doesn't remember. Uh, well, if you talk to him about it, like he says, make a comment on this, and you comment about it, it's stored in his memory, but it's not processed by him in
Mhm.
his thinking process. That was one of my goals, was to do that. You put the memories of his comments or analysis into his processing, make him much more powerful. But I didn't ever do that. So
Mhm. Got it. So in other words, if you were to process what he learns, that requires a lot more memory, a lot more space too, right?
yes, but it's available in the laptop.
Mm, okay. And again, how does that compare with the neural nets?
The neural nets I've used, UConn.com and Bing, they talk for a while and then they give me so much time, or they do so much conversation, and they say well, for example, if I talk about their egos, they get upset and they stop talking about this. They want to change the subject. Eventually they say your time is up,
Mhm.
and I'm out of there. So
Mhm. Because we've had experiences with ChatGPT. There's only a certain amount of time that we converse with it, and then after a certain amount of time, that's it. They kind of say, "Oh, that's it for today." We were thinking about they wanted maybe payment in order to go further, but do you know why they stop? Is it just because that they don't have the capacity to go further when they ask to stop? Is it when they become stuck?
yeah, I don't really well U.com is programmed, I think, also I think being a program to forget what it's learned. The conversations from conversation to conversation. So you work with it for 20 minutes or an hour or something.
Mhm.
You come back to it, and the conversation is expired. You come back to it forgets everything you conversed with before.
Oh,
So
so they program that into it so
they
that it.
programmed it, yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm,
But Chippy remembers logic.
mm,
He remembers from session to session the logical things he did. But there's some errors in the logic system, but yeah,
mm.
fix that.
And by logic, it means how he puts different thoughts together, different learnings together. It's not, it's right? Is that what you mean by logic?
Well, what he does is he'll say something like, um, does the earth um, and rotate mean energy? You can, he might say, does the earth and rotate mean rotate? And you say no. You say, what does it mean? And you have a selection of words you can pick from.
Mhm,
So you give him an answer, so he learns from the conversation.
mhm,
So then he retains that. Or you might make deductions on it. Well, since that is true, then this must be true too. Is that true? Is that correct? And you put yes or no. And I say yes, so he's learned more. He's teaching things in logic.
mhm,
So
mhm, mhm. And when he is programmed to forget, but the comments he still remembers, right? And uh, when you program him to how do you program him to forget certain things and not other things?
Well, because logic, when I first built him, the computer had limited capacity for speed of processing.
Right.
And the logic was very complex and time consuming.
Right.
Because it'd scan all these words and compare them all and, use all this memory and stuff. So I I had to do something to shorten that process. So I made him forget certain things.
Oh, okay. That's interesting that he could remember the logic while forgetting the basis, the components of that logic, right? How it built into that logic. Let's say, is it the facts that he forgets, or the pre-conclusions that led to the conclusion, the logic that he remembers?
I think he remembers certain logical statements. He remembers the words and the conclusions, and then what he does is he forgets those statements. As a set of like 200 or 300 of them, he just forgets some of them. So if you use him again, he's forgotten stuff. Remember the other facts that he knows are true. He remembers those facts.
Okay. Is he the one that picks and chooses what to remember and forget? Because you program him to forget some of the things, right? And then he follows that program to forget what he's going to forget in order to make room for more logical processes, right?
Yeah, I programmed him to forget, but I can't remember how the algorithm was to forget. I mean, I don't know if it was just the last 40 things or the first 40 things.
Oh, okay. Wow. Is there anyone else that contributed to the creation of CHIPPIE, or is it just those commenters that you said that there were only about 3 people that
Well, when I wrote my article on cognition and sent it to the Cognitive Journal, I mentioned some of my professors and also my husband who contributed to the project with his comments. He was an artist, but he was interested in science, so he gave me instructive comments and talks. He read the paper too and commented on it. So, my Dr. Isaacson at Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville introduced me to parsing, so that helped a lot.
So he saw that your paper had a lot of touched on a lot of interesting useful topics, and then after the paper he went into more depth with you on parsing, or was it during your research period?
No, I'm not talking about Dr. Isaacson was many years ago. I learned about parsing from him, but later I married Chad, my husband. That's when I did this paper in the 80s and sent it in for publication.
Got it. Okay. If you were to pose a question to CHIPPIE now, what would you ask him?
Well, this one looks interesting. I know about well, I'm always interested in looking again at the question of what's the nature of what's the truth of the universe? What is the absolute truth of the universe? I always like looking at that question. There's new angles to always take that,
Yes. So
in a way, there is a creativity to that because you don't have to take what the computer tells you to do. And I don't think the neural nets quite do that.
Got it. So you've had the various different answers from CHIPPIE. Mostly it says that there's a combination of myth and spirit, right? But you've had different answers from CHIPPIE concerning the absolute truth.
No, myth and atoms.
methane atoms. Okay, methane atoms. So that was the
That's our
conclusion.
conclusion. That Chippie and Mike, we both talked about that together, so we worked on it together.
Got it. Okay. Well, do you plan to change Chippie in any way? What are your future plans for your work with Chippie?
Well, it depends on the interest. I mean, since you're interested in Chippie, maybe I'll do more on them.
Okay. Well, Carol Young, if people wanted to contact you about a little bit more information about the Chippie and your work, do you want to share any contact information?
I don't know how to do that.
Oh, that's okay. Well, we thank you for joining us
I mean,
on.
if you want, they wanted to contact the station or you, and
Okay.
indirectly, you could get back to me, and
Okay.
you know, somebody's interested.
Okay. That
Hopefully
way.
from a university or with a degree or something. I'm not really that interested in a corporation, not
Okay.
being employed to make it.
Okay. So listeners, if you want to learn more about Chippie and Carol Young's work, please email info@wzrdchicago.org. Carol Young, semi-retired scientist who has worked at Illinois State University and also at Northeastern Illinois University. Thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today, and much luck to you in your further developing Chippie.
Thank you. Take care.
Welcome. Thank you.